So we can start looking at Botsociety together, and then we'll go over the topics on the agenda. Share my screen. Boom. All right, so actually wanted to open this, which is Botsociety's website, while I talk about the first point. So, so yeah, this is Botsociety. If you don't know what Botsociety is, it's a conversation design tool. You can think of it as a tool like Sketch or Figma, but specifically for conversation design. So if you have experience using tools like Sketch and Figma, those tools are for designing graphical user interfaces. But Botsociety, it's similar to those tools, but instead of designing graphical user interfaces, you're designing conversational user interfaces. So that's why it's a tool that's dedicated for conversation design. And so what you can design on Botsociety, like I said, conversational user interfaces, you can design for any channel, any messaging channel, or any conversational platform. So if you wanted to design a conversational experience for a Facebook Messenger bot, or a WhatsApp bot, Google Assistant action, or an Alexa skill, an IVR experience, that's interactive voice response. That's like when you call a company and you have that IVR system that's saying, if you'd like to hear about real-time information, press 1. So that's also a conversational experience. So if you wanted to design for any of these types of experiences, you can do that on Botsociety. And so I will get into the tool today, how to use it. But if you have also, if you're curious about learning more about Botsociety, we also have this website. You can go to botsociety.io to look over some of these features that we have. And then we have as well, under resources, we have tutorials, community, we have a podcast, which is called the Conversation Design Podcast, and even documentation. So if you signed up for Botsociety and wanted to learn how to use it, even continue learning how to use it after this call, or after this workshop, excuse me, then you can reference our documentation and learn how to use it. Okay, so if I sign up for Botsociety, I'm going to log in, but if I sign up for Botsociety, it takes us to our main screen here in our account, which is it's our drafts space. So this is where I can create a new design. And I also have my team spaces here, so I can be part of a team where I can create more designs along with my teammates. But before we get into just creating a design, we should talk about the first point on the agenda, which is chatbot, ideation, and persona. So usually when you are working in Botsociety, or when you're working on a conversational user interface project, it usually starts with ideating and creating a persona of that bot that you'll be designing. So before you even get into using Botsociety, where you're designing the conversational flows and the experience itself, you should first start with thinking about what your chatbot is going to do, how it's going to help people, what it should feel like. So what the bot's persona is, as in, is it maybe a funny chatbot, or witty, or is it more serious and to the point? These are some things that usually you think about with your team, or if you're working on the project yourself, then generally you're thinking about it before you get into designing the conversational flows, which is where you would use Botsociety. And so when you do this, when you ideate about the chatbot and you come up with the bot persona, you usually do this with like on a whiteboard or with sticky notes. There's also some tools out there that are like kind of like whiteboards, like a digital whiteboard, that where you can create, little post-it notes or notes in that tool, where you're coming up with this bot persona. You're thinking about all this stuff before you actually get into designing the conversations. You can do that in Botsociety too. Usually you use Botsociety later on in your design project where you're designing the conversational flows. But if you wanted to, you can also use Botsociety to kind of ideate as well before you get into designing a bit more complex conversational flows. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. So going back to the tool, let's say that we've come up with the persona and like what the chatbot is going to help our users with, our customers with. Then when you get to Botsociety after you've signed up, what you can do is you can create a new design. So like I said, this is the drafts section of your account, which means that this is where you can create any number of designs, and these designs are personal to you. So they're private to you. No one has access to these designs unless you share them with someone, which you can do. Like for example, this one here, I can share with someone if I wanted to by inviting them or just copying this link and sending it to them. But if I don't do that, then it's private to me. Conversely, if you have a team space, because you can also work with your teammates on Botsociety, then you can click on that, and then you have another section where you have folders, like project folders, and then within those folders you have designs, or you have more folders. So you can organize your work this way. So if you were working on something by yourself, then maybe you just use the drafts section. If you're working on this project with your team, then you can create a team space. There's a button here at the bottom that says new team space. You can create it, name it whatever your team would be called, and then invite your team members to it so that you can all work on the project together. And there's no limitation. Like if you sign up on Botsociety for free, because we do have a free plan, which is free forever. There's no paywall. You don't have to put in your credit card or anything like that. If you sign up for free along with your teammates, you can still create a team and all of you can work together on the free plan. So you don't have to pay anything to do that. But okay, so let's say we start off with drafts. So I'm going to work on this project myself, and I'm going to create a new design. So to go here, I can click on this plus to create a new design, or I can click here to create a new design. So if I do that, then it takes us to the new design screen. And then I have all of these options to pick from to design my experience. So like I said, you can design for any conversational user interface, any messaging channel. So I said like WhatsApp, Messenger, Google Assistant, Alexa, IVR. So these are all official presets. They're like templates that you can choose from. So if I chose the Messenger preset, then what opens up is like a template for Facebook Messenger, where then I can start designing the experience. I can start designing the conversation by adding messages to it. And when I preview it to see what that experience looks and feels like, it looks like Facebook Messenger because we're on the Facebook Messenger preset. So it allows you to preview the final user experience before you would even build it and then deploy it on Facebook Messenger. That's why Botsociety is so cool as a dedicated conversation design tool, because you can focus on designing the conversations, and the actual component where it's like, where it looks like Facebook Messenger, that's already built for you in the preview, so you don't have to worry about that. Instead, you can just focus on designing the experience. And so that's just for Messenger. If you wanted to do something for WhatsApp, then you would pick the WhatsApp preset. And then when you're designing the experience and you press the play button to preview, you would see what it would look like on WhatsApp. And what's also cool is the types of messages that you're adding to these conversations that you're designing. So like, let's say you're designing an experience with text message and buttons and maybe carousel cards, then the types of messages that you're able to add, it's all dependent on the messaging channel that you're designing for. So if you picked the official preset for Messenger, the types of messages that you're able to add on the Messenger preset are the types of messages that Messenger supports. So if one of the messages that you can add on the Messenger preset is a carousel, then that means that Facebook Messenger supports carousels. And then when you press the play button to preview and you see what it looks like during the preview, that's what it would look like on Messenger. Whereas if you were designing SMS, SMS doesn't support carousels. So it wouldn't even show up as an option when you're designing on the SMS preset, because we don't want you to be able to add a message that then later on you wouldn't be able to actually build for SMS because SMS doesn't support it. So you can think of these presets as not only templates, but also design guides, so that you're designing, you're focusing on the experience, and you don't have to worry about some of the more technical aspects of like what kind of messages does this channel support, because we've already done that with done that for you by creating these presets. What we're going to work on today is generic, so that's also an option. Like, let's say if you're working on a client project and it's not for WhatsApp, it's not for Messenger or Google Assistant, but it's just something generic. Like maybe they're working on a chatbot for their mobile app or for their website. Then you can choose the generic preset, because that's something that you can kind of you don't have to worry about, you know, seeing a preview of Messenger or WhatsApp. You can actually customize it, the generic preset, a little bit so that it looks more like the experience that your client is hoping for you to design. So if I click on generic and I click on start designing, it'll take me to my design canvas. So now we're inside Botsociety, where we're able to start designing an experience. And so the first thing that we had on the agenda was chatbot ideation and persona. I mentioned that that's something you usually do outside of Botsociety, because maybe you're just working on a whiteboard, or you're doing sticky notes or post-it notes, or you're using some type of software online that's kind of like a whiteboard or a sticky note replacement, like a digital replacement for it. So usually teams use this because you're not actually designing the flows yet. You're not designing the complex flows yet. You're just ideating about what this chatbot is going to be able to do and what the persona is going to be like. But if you wanted to use Botsociety to do that, you can still do it. What I mean by that is, this is a message editor, so you can type whatever you want here and add it. And so, you know, technically you can, if you wanted to, you can write about your bot persona here, and maybe you can start kind of using Botsociety as scratch paper for designing like very simple flows, just to get an idea about, you know, the persona you're trying to go for. So don't want to stop you from using Botsociety if you want to for that part of the stage in the process, chatbot ideation persona. So definitely feel free to do it if you'd like. Okay, let me delete this message, and then we can start from scratch and talk about the next point on our agenda, which is designing the happy path. So now that we're in Botsociety and we have this canvas in front of us, we're designing on the generic preset. So we're focusing on designing the conversation, and what it will look like is just like a generic experience. Like when we do the preview, it'll just look like a generic chat, like a mobile app. So designing the happy path, what you can do on Botsociety to start designing, it's very simple. You have two buttons. So this blue button and this pink button. This blue button says bot says, the pink one says user says, and they're attached to this component here, which is called a path. And so this is titled new path because we haven't named it yet. And so what we're doing in Botsociety when we're designing our experience is we're designing paths. So we're designing one path for one use case, and then maybe we design another path for another use case, and then maybe those paths have paths that they're connected to, because it's like a flow. So it's flowing from one path to another path, and maybe it links back to that path. So thinking about it visually like that, we're dealing with paths and then messages within those paths. And so that's how Botsociety, that's the logic behind designing on Botsociety, is you're focusing on designing the messages within paths. and then you can create multiple paths and link them to each other. And so this next topic on our agenda, designing the happy path, what that's all about is we want to focus on designing the best interaction possible between your bot, your chatbot, and the user that would be interacting with it. So if we have an idea of what our chatbot wants to do, let's say for this workshop, I'm going to do a coffee chatbot, so like a chatbot that helps you order coffee. If that's what our use case is, then we can think of a happy path, like maybe one of the things that the chatbot can help with is curbside pickup. And so I'll rename this path curbside pickup, and I'll name it happy, because this is going to be my happy path. Like I said, the happy path is the best interaction possible between the bot and the user for this use case, which is curbside pickup. And now, focusing on the experience, I can start designing this happy path. So maybe the first message I'll add is from the user, and we have this drop down here, which is the type of message that the user can add. So right now we have simple text selected, and maybe the user says something like, "Hi, I'm outside for curbside pickup," like that. And I click add, and boom, we have our first message. And then we can switch over to bot says, and now add a bot message. So maybe the bot will say, "Hello, I'm Monica, the virtual concierge from Coffee King." That's my brand. And then I could indent down to start a new paragraph and go, "I'm here to help you with your curbside pickup. But let's say, but first, I need to gather some info from you." And then let's add that message, and let's add another one where the bot says, "What is your full name?" Let's say that's one of the questions that we need to ask in order to help the person with curbside pickup. So we can add, "What is your full name?" And since we're designing a happy path, the user, since this is the best interaction possible between the user and the bot for this use case, the user would respond with their full name. So they would say, "Dylan," I'm just going to write my name, add that, boom. So we gave the bot the name. And so we can keep going. We can keep asking questions. "Nice. Please tell me your phone number and email address." Okay, now the user. So you see how fast I'm adding these messages. And I'll just make up a phone number. It's not my real phone number, but I'll add my real email. And by the way, if you're interested in continuing the conversation after the workshop, feel free to email me at this email here, just dylan@botsociety.com. Happy to answer any questions. So we can add that, go back to bot. And then maybe the last thing is, "Great. Last question. What is your order number?" And the user says 345-677, let's say, something random. And that's pretty much the end of we gather all the information, so that's pretty much the end of our happy path. And so maybe the bot says, "Thank you. I have notified the store of your arrival. Store associate will message you when they bring out your order. Boom. And maybe the bot or the user says, thanks. So there we go. So you see how I was able to, by the way, I'm zooming out by holding Command and scrolling on my mouse. So I can zoom in and out on my canvas, and I can move around. With I have a magic mouse / like a trackpad, so it's easy to move around. But if you don't have a trackpad or a mouse that allows you to scroll like this with your finger, then you can hold down your space bar, and that'll change your mouse pointer into a hand, and then you can just grab the canvas by clicking and dragging it around. So you can easily scroll like this. You can zoom in and out. And so I'm zooming out a little bit to show you this path. So we have our happy path, curbside pickup. I'm outside for curbside pickup. And since this is the best interaction possible, it leads to the bot helping the user with this use case, and then the user saying thanks. So we got that. So that's how you think about designing a conversation when you're thinking about conversation design best practices, which are designing these happy paths for your use cases. And so if we were designing more use cases, like if it was, maybe I also had a use case for ordering coffee. So we wanted to design a happy path for how to help the user order the coffee that they want. Then we would follow the same. We would do the same thing as we did here. We would create a path. We would make it a happy path, and we would just design this best interaction possible between the user and the bot to help them order the coffee all the way down through to the point where the coffee was ordered successfully, right? So that's what designing a happy path is. Now, the next thing on the agenda is designing the general repair path. So before we do that, if we wanted to preview this happy path to see what this feels like, then we can press play. So this is the preview feature that I was talking about. So since we designed these messages, now I can press play up here in the top right corner. And if I click on video preview, I can see what this experience looks like. And this is, like I said, it's just like a generic, it's a mobile phone with a generic, it looks like a generic app, and the chatbot is like a generic chatbot. So it even says generic bot up here, and it has this picture, but I can actually change that if I wanted to. And so you see the messages coming in, we're seeing what this experience looks like, what it feels like, and based off of this, we can then go back to our happy path and iterate on our design a little bit, and fix some things if we saw some issues, and then and then keep designing. So once this ends, I can click on the stop icon to exit, and I can go back to my design here. So if I wanted to add more messages, I can either edit any of these messages and duplicate them, delete them, or I can click on the bottom of the path, add a new message like this, and then drag it up to anywhere in the conversation like that. So that's how you can iterate on the design. But let's say this happy path looks great, and we want to continue moving forward with our project here. And the next thing we want to do is to design a general repair path. So what that would require us to do is we need to create another path, right? Because we only have one path right now. And so to create a new path, what I could do is click here on the hamburger menu, and then we have File, New Path. So when I click that, now I have this new path selected. I haven't clicked anywhere on the canvas, so that's why it's hovering like this. And if I want to add it here, I just click, and now it's on our canvas. And I can move it again if I wanted to, just by clicking on the top bar or on this here on the bottom of the path and moving it somewhere else on the canvas. Okay, so we have our happy path. Now let's design just a general repair path. So I'll name this general repair path. And let's just design the classic, which is what happens if the user says, something like, I don't know, or I'm lost. And the bot doesn't understand what the user means by that. So it's not, we're not designing something, we're not designing a repair path that's dedicated to a specific point in the conversation. So like, for example, if in the happy path, the bot said, what is your full name? Actually, that's a bad example. If the bot said, what is your order number? And the user said, I don't know, to that specific question, then we would want to design a dedicated repair path where we help the user figure out what their order number is. Because we know, like, within that point in the conversation, we know that the conversation that they're having is about an order number. And so if they say, I don't know, we want to design a dedicated repair path to help them figure out their order number. But if it's something, if they say something like, I'm lost, like it doesn't have to do with any point here in the conversation, as in the bot doesn't really understand what the user's context is by saying I'm lost, then we might want to design a general repair path. So it's not dedicated, but it's general. So it's like, what happens if the bot has no idea what the user is saying and they need to help the user figure out, you know, what to talk about next. And so the bot may say something in response to I'm lost with something like, I'm not sure what you mean. Maybe it's, we want the user to understand that the bot is still learning. So maybe the bot says, I'm still learning. Maybe we also want the bot to be sorry. So maybe they say, sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm still learning. Right? So we add kind of this like general repair path to try to fix the situation. So we add that message, and then maybe the next message is something like the bot giving the user options. So maybe we give the user like buttons that they can click on that connect to specific use cases that the bot can help the person with. So like, for example, one of the buttons might be curbside pickup, right? Because that's one of the use cases that we already designed. So what we're doing here by adding these buttons is the user said, I'm lost. The bot said, sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm still learning, but here are some options that I can help you with. So we're trying to fix the conversation by giving them options so that they don't have to, they can just click on it instead of having to, you know, think of something to write back to the bot. So maybe we have curbside pickup. Another one is order coffee. And up here in the text, we can write, here are some things I can help you with, like that. Okay, so we can do that. And then if I click add, then we're gonna have a couple of things, or a thing pop up with a couple options. And this relates to a later point in our agenda, which is how to structure your conversation with buttons. So I'll get into it more deeply when we get to that point. But basically what we're doing here is we're creating buttons, and since these buttons relate to like it can relate to a specific path, like a dedicated path for that button. Like if the user clicked on that button, it would relate to this dedicated path. We need to have the option to add that. Like if we have all these buttons, do we want to be able to create a specific dedicated path for each button that they can choose from? Do we want it to be that no matter which button they click on, it still continues in the same path? Or do we want to make it so that we have a happy path and an unhappy path? As in, like, maybe the first button that they click on is part of the happy path that we're designing. And then the other buttons are unhappy paths. So they don't have to do with the happy path we're designing, but they're something else. So they have dedicated paths. So for this, what I would want to do is create a path for each button. So I click on the first one, link it like that, or click there like that on the canvas. And now I have, for each button selection, I have a dedicated path. So we have order coffee and curbside pickup. And actually, since we already have a curbside pickup design, we can change this link So since we already have it here, we don't have to design it again. We can change this link, and if I click like that, then I can move it over here, connect it to this path, and now it's connected to this path. So if they click on the curbside pickup button, it'll initiate this path. You see it even, now this path is unlinked and it doesn't have any content in it anymore. So what I can do is I can delete it. Boom. Like that. So that's our general repair path. So to show you something cool is like, if we did a preview of this, and let's start by previewing this repair path, user saying, I'm lost. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm still learning. Here are some things I can help you with. And then it gives us the two options, curbside pickup and order coffee. And I can choose which one I want to go down. So this is the video preview. So I have my options on the left side. We also have an interactive preview where the buttons are clickable. So you can do like user testing sessions with some testers, and they can actually click on the buttons and interact with your design that way. But if I click on curbside pickup, then it takes us to the curbside pickup path. And now we're previewing that experience again that I showed in the beginning. So that's how you can, create a general repair path, connect it back to your to one of your use cases. And so now we have this. Imagine if we also designed this order coffee path, then we would really start designing out this experience for all of these use cases that we have and this repair path. So we're really covering all of our bases now. But another thing that I mentioned is the dedicated repair paths. So this is the general repair path for if the user says something, super random that the bot doesn't understand. But what if they said, I don't know, to a specific question that the bot asked about? For example, the order number. So great, last question, what is your order number? And in the happy path, user gives the order number. But if they didn't know, then we would need to design a dedicated repair path. So how we can do that is we can actually click on this message here. What is your order number? And we can create a fork in the road by creating a path out of this message. So if I click on create path and then click here on the canvas, now we've created a path that's already connected to this point in the conversation. So the logic here is it goes, nice, now please tell me your phone number and email address. The user provides that. Great, last question, what is your order number? And then we have that fork in the road. So either they go down the link into our dedicated repair path where the user says, I don't know, right? Or they continue down the happy path that we already designed here where they provide their order number and the conversation keeps going. So this is our happy path, and this is our unhappy path, which is a dedicated repair path in this case. So we would do order number repair, something like that. And you can name these paths whatever you want, but this is just kind of the structure that I'm using to name my paths. Okay, so we have that, and now the bot will need to help the user figure this out. So they'll need to help them figure out what their order number is to then be able to link it back to the happy path and continue with helping them, with their curbside pickup use case. And so the bot may say something like, no problem, I can help you with that. I'll look up the order number for you. What coffee type did you order? I don't know, something like that. And maybe the user says, latte with oat milk. I'll do iced latte. add that, and the bot will say, great, I found your order number. Now this is a very simple conversation just for the sake of the workshop. Maybe this is too simple, but I'm trying to show you what a repair path would look like. So we're figuring out the order number is for the user since they didn't know it themselves, and then we're going to link it back to the happy path. So maybe the bot says, great, I found your order number. It's 34567. Right, so we add that, and then we link this path back to this next message, which is, I have notified the store of your arrival. A store associate will message you when they bring out your order. Boom. So now we've repaired the conversation. So if we preview this, press play. We'll get to that point where we have the fork in the road, where either we go down the happy path because we know what our order number is, or we don't know the order number and we go down the repair path. Here we are. So if we did the repair path, I don't know. Boom, it goes to the repair path. I can help you with that. I'll look up your order number for you. What coffee type did you order? Iced latte with oat milk. Great, I found your order number. It's 345677. Then thank you. I've notified the store of your arrival. A store associate will will message you when they bring out your order. Thanks. Just like that. So we created this repair path, dedicated repair path for the user not knowing what their order number is, linked it back to the happy path so we can continue with that experience for that use case, and it resolves everything for the user. So, you know, we help them with the curbside pickup use case. So now you can really see that our design is getting more and more complex. So we have our curbside pickup happy path, we have a general repair path, we have an order number dedicated repair path, we have another use case that maybe we'll start working on, which is helping people order coffee. So this is how you slowly start building out this conversational experience in Botsociety. And it's very visual. You can see your paths with all the messages in them. You see all the connections. You see which messages are from the user, which messages are from the bot. You have different types of messages, like these are just simple text messages, but then here we have a buttons message type. We have other message types as well. Like if I open this, so we have images, you can upload images, carousels, buttons, which I already did here, quick replies, and these are just for the generic preset. So like I said, we have all these different presets for different messaging channels like WhatsApp, Messenger, Google Assistant, and all those presets are basically design guides. So the lists of messages that you can add are all specific to the types of messages that those presets, that those messaging channels support. So maybe, for example, Apple Business Chat, that one, the list is way longer than just these 5 that we have here: simple text, image, carousel, buttons, and quick replies, because Apple Business Chat supports way more message types. And this is just like a generic preset that supports 5 message types. So you can really, you know, create these very complex conversational experiences with all these different rich message types, depending on which messaging channel you're working on. So it's very, very cool. And it's very fast too. I said we're slowly building out this experience, but I mean, it's been only 40 minutes since we started, and we already have a pretty cool conversational experience that we built out. And maybe the copy that I'm writing here, like the actual content and the messages, is pretty bad because I'm just doing it on the fly and I don't have a real use case. But if you do have a real project, you did actually come up with real use cases, you created a real persona, and then you jumped into Botsociety to design the conversational experiences, you can design something really cool. And with the preview feature, this one here, what's really awesome is that you can you can show this to your stakeholders. So if you're working on a project and your manager has to approve some of the steps that you're taking, or maybe the stakeholders on the client side because you're doing a project for a client, you can, along the way as you're designing, you can show them these previews to show them what the experience would look like, all before even spending any engineering money or hours on building it out, because that's a whole another process as well. So it saves you a lot of time, it saves you a lot of money, and it's a great way to build out these, or to design these conversations. Okay, so the next thing is how to structure your conversation with buttons. And then to finish it off with the last 15 to 20 minutes that we have, we'll also go over how to hand over to engineering, plus I'll take some questions that you may have so I can answer them during the workshop here. So for how to structure your conversation with buttons, what I have is another design that's a bit more built out. So it's the same use case that we were just looking at, but we have some dedicated repair paths for, like them having a curbside issue. And then from there, even more paths that are connected. And you see that there are some things that we haven't seen yet. For example, we have like this we've seen. So we've seen connections like this. But then here, you see that there's let's reschedule, I want to cancel. And then, so let's reschedule actually continues in the path, but then I want to cancel goes to a dedicated path. So that's kind of a different way of organizing your paths than what we did here, which is for both of these buttons, we have dedicated paths, right? We have one path for curbside pickup and then another path for order coffee. In this example, one button continues down the same path and another button creates a new path. And then I also have another example here where we have 3 buttons. So great, oat milk it is. At which location would you like to pick up your order? Santa Monica, West Hollywood, downtown. And no matter what button they click on, it goes on to the next message in the happy path. So these are those 3 options that I showed briefly earlier. And I want to go over that to show you what the logic is behind this. So this is the more complex design that I've built out. So you can see there's a lot more messages. And so if I go, let's go with, let's go here. I can't be there. So the context is they were on the happy path. The bot asked, what is your full name? And the user said, I have an issue with my pickup. So they completely turned the conversation around to a different issue, saying that they can't make it, or saying that they have an issue with the pickup. And the bot responds, uh-oh, sounds like you are having a problem. Can you describe it or pick an option below? So we're giving the user options to choose from. We have nobody arrived, I can't be there, the product is wrong or damaged. For this, when we created this message, we selected quick replies. I added the quick replies. So I wrote, nobody arrived. Add another one. I can't be there. And then the product is wrong, damaged. So I want to show you what the logic was here. So I created these 3 quick replies. And then when I clicked add, then here we have that selection again. And so with this, what we clicked on was create a path for each button. And the logic here is that this curbside issue path that we have here is not a happy path. As in, like, if they click on the first option, which is nobody arrived, we don't want the experience to continue in this path. Instead, we have a separate path, which is dedicated for when nobody arrived. So, and then a separate path for I can't be there, and a separate path for the product is wrong or damaged. We don't want any of those options to continue in our curbside issue path, because that's a path by itself. And now we want to, whatever they click on, we want it to, spider down into a different a different path. So what we would click on is create a path for each button. So if I click on this, I have this path again, hovering, and I can add it wherever I want. I'll add it over here, just to get out of the way. Boom, it creates 3 connections. Nobody arrived, I can't be there, the product is wrong or damaged. So now I'd be able to, move these around, then add the messages inside, and we have each of those paths, right? Just like we did here. So let me get this actually out of the way now. I'll delete it. So now we're back to just having this message already that was created earlier, and we have the nobody arrived, I can't be there, and the product is wrong or damaged. So that's the first button structure. The second one is if it continues in the same path. So what that would be like is like no matter what they click on, it's going to continue in the same happy path. And that example is this one here. So great, oat milk it is. At which location would you like to pick up your order? Santa Monica, West Hollywood, downtown. So if I recreated this message to show you how we did that, I would open up the message editor, click on buttons, and then I would write at which location. And then we would do Santa Monica, West Hollywood, and downtown. And then when I click add, instead of clicking on the first one like we did just a second ago, you would click on the second one, which is continue in the same path. So that, if I click on that, boom, it just creates a link to the next message in the same path. The reason that there's a link is because they're actually clicking on a button. So it's like an interactive point in the conversation where they use their finger, they click on a button, and it goes to the next message, which is from the user, or excuse me, from the bot, which says confirmed, right? And save that. So the reason it doesn't matter which location they're talking about is because, or which location they want to pick up at, is because the logic is it doesn't matter because there's no unique dedicated experience depending on which location. Maybe in your example there is, maybe like depending on which location you want to have a tailored example for, like if they want to pick up their order in Santa Monica, then it's dedicated and it's a different experience than if they clicked on West Hollywood. But in my example, it doesn't matter. We don't have a dedicated experience depending on which location they're picking up at. It's just a piece of information that we're grabbing from the user so that we can confirm the order and create their coffee at that location. So that's why no matter what they click on, the next message, it continues in the happy path, and the bot says confirmed. Okay, so that's the second one. So we did the first one, the second one, and now the third one is happy and unhappy paths. So that's like, it's a hybrid between the first one and the second one. So the first one was we create a path, a dedicated path for each selection. The second one was no matter which one they click on, it continues in the same path. And the third one, happy and unhappy paths, is like they click on the first one and it continues in the same path, or they click on the second, third, and so on, and those have dedicated paths. So the first one continues in the same path. All the rest have dedicated paths. And the logic behind this is, let's say we have an I can't be there path. It sounds like you can't get in front of our store in time for the pickup. I can help you reschedule or cancel your order. How would you like to proceed? And then we give them 2 options. Let's reschedule. I want to cancel. And so the way we're thinking about it is let's reschedule is part of our I can't be there happy path. So we want that to continue in this path, because that, for us, that's the best case scenario. That's the best interaction possible, is that we help them reschedule their curbside pickup, and it's not a greater issue than that, where like maybe, conversely, the greater issue is that the user wants to cancel. And so that deserves a dedicated path. So if they click on let's reschedule, it'll continue in this path. the bot will say, sounds great, tell me when it's best for you, or select an option below. They select one of these options. It doesn't matter which one they select. The next message also continues in the path. Okay, perfect. I've rescheduled your pickup delivery. So this one is this tomorrow, next Thursday, and next Monday. That one is this, continue in the same path. But this one up here, let's reschedule / I want to cancel. That one is, let me remove this third one. And then let's reschedule, and I want to cancel. And so we would click add, and we would do happy and unhappy paths. So I click on that. I want to add it over here. Boom. Now we have an I want to cancel path. And then we also have let's reschedule, which continues in our happy path, right? So just like we have over here, this one continues, and this is the I want to cancel path, like this. So that's the logic behind buttons, and it allows you to design all these different experiences as I explain the logic behind all that. So that allows you to design really complex conversations. And so to finish off with handing over to engineering and then taking some questions from you is, once we've designed all these paths, we've designed out these conversational flows, and we've worked with our teammates, maybe we've played the preview and we showed it to our stakeholders, and they wanted to leave feedback, let's say, so that we can iterate on our design. One of the things that we could do is we can actually share it. So I showed you how you can share a design file from outside of the file. So like when we're in our drafts space, but you can actually also share it from within a design file by clicking on a copy link, or you can input their email here and give them editing permission or view permission. So view permission is like they would be able to enter your design file, but they wouldn't be able to edit anything. So everything would be locked. So they can't mess anything up. They can just view it, scroll around the canvas, see what it looks like, press the play button to preview it, and then they can leave comments. So we also have a comments feature here where they can leave a comment on any of the messages. And they can actually add a comments during the preview as well. So if they were doing the video preview and they activated the comments feature, they can leave comments during the video preview. So that gives you, gives them an opportunity to provide a lot of feedback. You can take this feedback, iterate on your design, and maybe also, if you needed to, you can download a video of your design or a PDF of your design to share it with more people, or to put the video into a presentation that you're showing the client or showing your stakeholders. So you have all these different options to create these designs, share them, export them for presentation purposes. And once you get to the point where you've gathered all the feedback, you've presented it, you've gotten your stakeholders to sign off on your design, then now we need to hand over your design to the engineering team. So what we would do is we have this dedicated feature in Botsociety called build mode. So I have my design here that we've been working on. And so far what we've been doing is we've been editing. So we've been in edit mode. But if we want to build this, so if we want to export this to the engineering team so they can build it, then we would click on this icon here, which is build mode. So if I click on that, then it changes my design. You see how it looks different. So this side panel opens up, and then also we have these drop downs at every path and at every message within the paths. And so what this is a more technical aspect of conversation design, but I'll briefly go over how to do this in Botsociety, and then also show you documentation where you can learn more about it, or you can reach out to me after the workshop to ask more questions. What you're doing here is you're defining the metadata in your design, because that metadata that you're defining, that's what your engineering team needs in order to be able to build out your design. using the technology, the development technology that they're using. So the technology that you're using is Botsociety. They have their own technology. Maybe it's Dialogflow, maybe it's Rasa, maybe it's some other technology. It all depends on maybe the project that they're working on. But if you're using Botsociety, you want to be able to export your design to whatever technology that they're using, right? So that they can inherit your design and build it out seamlessly. And so what you need to do in order to export it, in order to prepare it for export to this technology that your engineering team is using, is you need to define the metadata in your design. So the metadata that I'm talking about are things like intents and entities. And so intents and entities, this is, like I said, this is more technical, but the intents, you can think of intents as like, so we have this happy path here. Our use case is curbside pickup. I said use case, but it's like the intent of the user to talk to the bot about curbside pickup. So that's the intent, is curbside pickup. So what we could do here is, this is new path. We can name this we can make this whole path new path intent 0. So then all the messages in this path have the new path intent 0. And we can then change the name to curbside pickup, because maybe that's the naming structure that your engineering team is using for intents. And so this is important. We just marked this path as the curbside pickup intent. And then this one here, curbside issue, maybe we rename this to curbside issue, right? So what we're doing is we're going through our design and we're marking up, we're defining all of the intents in our design. So we have curbside pickup, curbside issue, maybe this is the nobody arrived intent, I can't be there, right? So we're going through and we're actually defining all of these paths as the intents that your engineering team is using. Here it would be order coffee, new path intent 4, so I'll change that to order coffee, boom. This is coffee options. So we need to do all this because the engineering team will be using these intents and the entities in the technology that they're using to build out your experience. Second thing that they will need is entities. So entities are like those words or phrases in the conversation from where the user says something and it's dependent on the user. Like the user's not going to say the same thing every single time. As in, like, if you ask the user what kind of coffee they would like, not every user is not going to say that they want a flat white. That's a variable. That's an entity. So like that's where we need to mark it as an entity, because whatever they say in response to that question, we need to capture that response in order to then understand what kind of coffee to make, right? So in this order coffee path, we ask what kind of coffee would you like? Can I get a flat white? We want to mark this as, so I just highlight it and then I do coffee type, for example, boom. So now we have coffee type equals, and then in our design, they said a flat white. So we marked this as an entity, which is called coffee type. And here we also have another path that says, what kind of coffee do you guys have? That's what the user says. And then the bot lists all the types of coffee that they offer. So what we would actually want to do is mark up each of these as that same entity. And it's just added here to the same list of entities, to the same entity type, rather, coffee type. So, and then we would do cappuccino, right? Let's do that. So I would continue doing that. Flat white again. And another part here is like the types of milk, right? So oat milk, regular milk, other milk. So I can change this to milk type. Same with regular milk. I would add that to the milk type category, to the milk type entity. Another example is, this will be the last one before I move on to the next point, which is like, for example, here, I provided my name. Not everybody in the world has that same name. So this is an entity. This is customer name. Boom. Then we have customer email. So we're defining all this stuff. It's being added to our list here. We define the intents as well. We go through our whole design and define all this stuff because this is the metadata that our engineering team will need. And once we do all that, then we choose the technology that you want to export to. So two very popular ones that engineering teams use are Rasa and Dialogflow. And so we have native integrations with both of those technologies. So if your engineering team was using Rasa, you can select Rasa, you define all the metadata, and then you just click export. And you go through these different steps, click export, and then it downloads a zip file to my computer, to my desktop here. And I can share that zip file with my engineering team, and that zip file contains all those artifacts, all those files that they need, which are formatted specifically for the technology that they're using, which in this case is Rasa. So they can just import those files into Rasa and use them from there. So they no longer have to start from scratch. So that's what's really powerful about this export. Same with Dialogflow. You can do that with Dialogflow. If they're using a different technology besides Dialogflow and Rasa, then you can also use our API to do a custom integration. So you can still export to any technology. You would just need to look at our documentation and learn how to use our API. We have all that documented. And that will allow you to export to any of those technologies. And that's how we created these integrations with Dialogflow and Rasa, is we used our API. So you can use the API to create integrations with other technologies other than Dialogflow and Rasa as well. And that's it. So that's how you use Botsociety. Let me see if there's any questions. I can answer those and then we'll wrap things up. Okay, here we are. All right, well, I guess there's no questions. So that's good. Well, if any other questions come up after the workshop, like I mentioned, feel free to reach out to me, Dylan@botsociety.com. You can email me directly with any questions you have or any feedback you have about the workshop or feedback about our product. We're always happy to hear that. And yeah, if you haven't signed up, you can go to botsociety.io. And let me do that. Go back to our website, botsociety.io. That's our website. And you can just get started for free. You don't have to put any credit card information or anything like that. You can sign up for free. It's free forever unless you upgrade to a premium plan, which has less product limitations, but maybe you don't need those. So you can just stay on the free plan. And then if you have any other questions, like I said, you can reach out to me, but then we also have tutorials, a podcast with some interesting insights into conversation design, a blog, community where you can ask questions to people in our community, and documentation. So if you have any questions about the product and maybe you think that you can find out the answer before reaching out, you can give it a try with our documentation. You can search your question and find something, like, for example, using the API. So here we are. That's how you can find more information about our API and figure out how to create that custom export. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for attending, and looking forward to staying in touch if you have any questions. stop share. Vittorio, you there?
Yep, I'm here. I have to confess, I'm drinking some coffee here. Wow.
Nice. So I guess that wraps it up. And should I just, I guess